Gupta is said to have spent his last days in South India and died there. It appears that there was a famine in Magadha and Chandragupta and his teacher came to Sravanabelgola, Hassan district, and stayed there. According to one Jaina tradition, Chandragupta died there on a hill now called Chandragiri. Of the 8 minor rock edicts of Asoka in South India, 6 are in Karnataka. Of the 6, 3 are at Maski, Gavamatha and Palkigandu in Reka district and the remaining 3 are at Brahmagiri, Siddhapura and Jattinga Ramesvara in Chitradurga district. The Brahmagiri, Siddhapura and Jattinga Ramesvara edicts were discovered by B.L. Rice in 1892. In 1915 Beeden, an engineer, discovered the Maski edict. In 1931 Narayana Rao Sastri of Koppal and G. Yazdani, Director of Archaeology, Hyderabad State discovered the Gavamatha and Palkigandu edicts. The subject matter of these edicts are the same except for some minor variations. He seems to have issued the minor rock edicts in his 12th regnal year. Maski edict acquires great prominence for it mentions Asoka's name. In all other edicts he mentioned as Devanampriya or Priyadasaraja. The Gujara inscription which was discovered recently mentions his name. The Maski edicts begins with Devanampiyasa Asokasa, thus says Devanampriya Asoka, while the Gavamatha edict begins with Devanampiyaya, thus says Devanampiya. Palkigandu is similar to Gavamatha edict. The Brahmagiri, Siddhapura and Jattinga Ramesvara inscriptions carry the message of Aryaputra and Mahamitra of Suvarnagiri to the Mahamitra of Isala. In the south of Suvarnagiri was an important province of the Mauryan Empire. It was placed in charge of the prince, Aryaputra. According to Hulch, Suvarnagiri must have been the same as Kanakagiri between Hampi and Maski. Others think that since Asoka's rock edicts I to 13 were brought to light at Yeragudi, Yeragudi must have been an important town during his period and therefore Jonagiri, near Yeragudi, must have been the same as Suvarnagiri. Brahmagiri or Siddhapura or some other place near it must have been Isala in the days of Asoka. There were Mahamitras at Suvarnagiri and Isala. The Mahamitras were the superior officers in Mauryan administration who performed various functions. They may be compared to modern IAS or ICS officers. Asokan edicts other than the one discovered in Mysore speak of Antamahamitra, officer in charge of the border, Dharma Mahamitra, censor of public morals, Nagaravayavarika Mahamatra, officer in charge of the judicial administration in the city, Rajavachanika Mahamatra, special emissary of the king, and Sri Adjakis Matra, officer in charge of the affairs of women. The Brahmagiri group of edicts introduce us to another officer called Lipikara whose business it was to engrave the inscriptions. His name is given as Chapada. Asoka is said to have erected his pillar edicts in big cities and rock edicts and minor rock edicts on the borders of his empire. Therefore, Brahmagiri, Siddhapura and Jattinga Ramesvara which were included in the province of Suvarnagiri must have been in his southern frontier. These edicts help us to understand the Asokan law of piety. As mentioned before, the subject matter of these edicts are the same except for some minor variations. Therefore, it will suffice our purpose if we notice one of his edicts here. In the Brahmagiri edict Asoka advises people to hearken to the advice of the parents and elders, to show compassion to animals, to speak the truth. The pupil must show reverence to his teacher and everyone must conduct himself properly with his neighbors and fellow beings. The main object of Asoka in issuing his edicts was to inculcate among his people the virtues of practical morality. The script used here is Brahmi and Brahmi was the parent of Kannada and Telugu scripts. Thus, it is seen from the above a considerable portion of the Deccan was included in the Mauryan Empire. This territory was ruled by the vice-regal princes of Suvarnagiri and Tosali, the Mahamitras of Isala and Sampa, and officers in charge of the Atavi or forest country. The Mauryas realized the importance of Dakshinapatha from the commercial point of view. In fact, the architect of the Mauryan Empire, Kautilya, desired to maintain communications with the Dakshinapatha for the sake of its diamond and gold mines, pearl and chank fisheries and numerous opulent marts. The expansion of the Mauryan Empire into Karnataka had its own impact on Karnataka polity. The Satavahanas who stepped into the shoes of the imperial masters, the Mauryas, in the Deccan established a polity which was a prototype of the Mauryan polity. In other words, Satavahana administration was just a replica of the Mauryan administration, both in content and spirit. They borrowed the names of the offices and administrative